All right, everyone. It is Friday, and you know what that means? It is time for manufacturing e-commerce success. And I am your co-host, Damon Postolka, and I am excited for our guest today. And I'm excited to talk today about building a thriving company culture with flexible schedules. And right now, I'm going to turn it over to that gentleman right over there, Kurt Anderson, and let him take it away. Kurt, let's go with this.
Hey, Damon, happy Friday, my friend. What a great day to have a great day. We're going to dive into I'll tell you, this is such a relevant conversation where you're hearing a ton of, wow, flexible work schedules are so vital and important, especially in our space, working with manufacturers where, workforce has been a little bit challenging. So this is just such a, this can lend such a dynamic competitive advantage. So I'm just thrilled and absolutely honored to introduce our guest today. We have Dr. Richard Coleman. Dr. Coleman, happy Friday. How are you?
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Hey, we are just thrilled for you to be here. Now, you're the founder of Coleman Consulting Group. Do I have that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That rumor? Now, that was a rumor. I just want to confirm that. There's truth to that rumor. Is that correct?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And also, you've written a couple books. We're going to dive into that. Now, Dr. Coleman, your specialty, your expertise has been flexible work schedules as far as sleep patterns, that type of thing. Now, I want to go back in time a couple years, maybe 3 or 4 years. But when you were a little guy growing up, Dr. Coleman, who was your hero? Who did you look up to that you just thought was the most wonderful person on the planet? Who was your hero when you were a little guy growing up?
Jackie Robinson and Willie Mays.
He's a baseball guy.
Great answers, man. Great. Please do share. Let's hear it. Go deeper, please.
Well, Jackie Robinson actually lived in Stanford, Connecticut, where I grew up. And I was friends with his neighbor. So sometimes we go over to Jackie Robinson's house to play with his kids. And one time I met him. I was about 11 years old. My mom said, "There's Jackie Robinson. Go meet him." I shook his hand. He said hello to me. And so he's always one of my heroes.
Wow. And then Willie Mays. Are you kidding me?
Willie Mays, I went to a game at Wrigley Field. And I figured out that he was being interviewed in the press box. And I figured out that he had to walk through the stands to get back to the dugout. So I waited for a half hour. And when he walked through the stands, I was there to shake his hand.
Oh, my goodness.
Two legends. I tell you, What a great answer. Yes. I didn't know where we were going to go today, Damon, but Jackie Robinson, Willie Mays, just two legends, right? And I believe
my goodness.
My goodness. I'm always reluctant to do this. I think did Willie Mays, did we just lose him recently? Am I close?
Yeah.
I think we just lost him. I think we just lost him recently. So, Dr. Coleman, thank you for sharing that. Those were two, and you shook Jackie Robinson's hand. Can you believe that?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, my mom was so wonderful. She said, "There he is. You got to go meet him." And I just went over and shook his hand and said hello to him.
Wow, what two absolute legends, just not even in baseball, just two legendary human beings, two class acts, and just, oh my God, I got goosebumps even thinking about that. Damon, we got a couple of people here saying hello.
Leslie stopping in. Hey, Leslie, how are you doing today? She said, "Hello, all. I'm tuning in from New York, and I look forward to the conversation." Then we got Suzanne Taylor King stopping by. Amazing. So cool. She's talking about the Jackie Robinson and Willie Mays. Awesome. Thanks. And if you're out there today listening, drop a note and let us know you're there or ask questions for Dr. Coleman.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thanks, Suzanne. Thank you for being here. Leslie, happy Friday to you. Again, we have a phenomenal expert here today. Please drop a comment. Let us know that you're here. Let us know where you're coming from. And a great opportunity to ask some questions. So, Dr. Coleman, let's dive in. So your expertise, your specialty has been just helping companies figure out the whole scheduling thing. Now, I want to go back in time a little bit. How did you get started? How did your consulting journey start?
Well, in 1980, I just joined the Stanford Medical School Sleep Disorders Clinic. And at that point, that was the first sleep clinic in the United States. There were only 10 altogether. Now there are hundreds. Yeah. And so a couple of patients came in who were shift workers with sleeping problems. And when we looked at what their work schedules were, we figured out we couldn't help them individually. We had to change the schedules. And in a lot of our research papers that we published about circadian rhythms, we put a little paragraph in there saying this might apply to shift work or jet lag. And one day, a newspaper in Utah, the Deseret News, sort of took our article and made a big deal about it. And a plant manager at a company out there, Great Salt Lakes, a chemical mining company, he actually called us at Stanford. And we talked to him on the phone. And then there were three of us who went to that plant. We knew nothing about shift work at that time. And over a 2-year period, we went in there and we changed the schedules dramatically. And when we changed the schedules, so what they were working at the time was basically rotating shifts every week.
Yep.
14 out of 15 days in a row. So they didn't get a lot of days off, 7 days off a month. And we changed the schedule so that they rotated shifts very gradually and very slowly and didn't work as many shifts in a row. And it turned out productivity went up 20%. So the Wall Street Journal picked this up and put it on their front page in the second section. And then we were on the Today Show. And all of a sudden we had 5 different companies calling us up and saying if we could help. And I was basically doing the consulting and working at Stanford. And finally I decided to leave Stanford on a full-time basis in 1984. And I started consulting, and that's how the business grew.
Oh, wow. That is phenomenal. Isn't it fascinating? You said there were 10 sleep centers in 1980. So Damon, 40, 50 years ago, like sleep was not a priority apparently. And so just, and these schedules, so let's go back in time, Dr. Coleman. What were some common schedules that you were seeing that were really causing a lot of these challenges?
Well, the most common shift work schedule in the US in the 80s was something called the Southern Swing. I guess it started down the South, but basically you'd have 4 crews, and they're always working 8-hour shifts. So on any given day is a day shift, evening and night. But if you were on the schedule, you're going to work 7 days in a row, 1 day off, 7 evenings in a row, 2 days off, and 7 nights in a row and 4 days off. So you're constantly, basically having jet lag constantly. You're bouncing around and you're not getting enough days off. In fact, very often the schedules rotated, we call backwards. They went from days to evenings to nights, which is sort of like traveling eastbound. It's a lot easier to travel westbound for your body clock and jet lag. So that was basically scheduled with not enough time off, rotating too quickly, and rotating the wrong way. And that was the most common schedule.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a powerful discovery. And so, was that kind of a, hey, this is just how we've always done it? Like there was on nobody's radar, like, hey, we're causing some problems here.
That's right. It's the way we've always done it. And it was very hard to get people to change because the people who couldn't hack the schedule, they had dropped out, and some people adjusted to it and they were used to it. And there was some overtime built in the schedule. So in general, employees were scared to change. So it took many, many years. Now you don't see that schedule much anymore. Mm-hmm. It's very rare to see that kind of schedule.
So wow. What a pioneer that you've been. And so, and again, I know you're a humble guy, but you were really a catalyst of kind of breaking that mold. That it was just this bad pattern was just creating a really unhealthy environment for people of just, living in constant jet lag and just, probably, as you said, like what were you seeing morale wise and like, depression or like, what were you seeing on the worker side?
Well, in those bad schedules, we found like 60% of the workers admitted to falling asleep at work on a fairly regular basis. Okay. And the family social life was really bad. We used to bring the families in and talk to them. It was a hard schedule, but they were used to it. So it wasn't easy to change.
Yeah, they just didn't, probably, and again, if it was factories or, could have been even generation, where, hey, this is how grandpa did it, this is how mom and dad did it. And just, kind of went down. What types of schedules, what are you seeing nowadays? Like what's more common from that?
What's much more common now are schedules that if you're running even 5 days a week, 6 days a week, or 7 days a week, the employees are often working 12-hour shifts. So they're working maybe 3 days a week, 4 days off, or 4 days a week, 3 days off. There's also a lot of 10-hour schedules where you're working 4 days on and 3 days off. Now the days off could rotate and change, but we're seeing a lot more schedules with more time off. We have schedules where you get an 8-day break every 4 weeks, for example, without using vacation. We have some really advanced schedules where you can get actually up to 10, 15-day breaks a year. So a lot more time off, a lot more flexibility. You can trade days off. You can work more overtime if you want, or you don't have to if you don't want. So the schedules are just completely different. There's still some old school schedules around, like at the U.S. Mint. I was talking to them recently. They're still working day, evening, night, 8-hour shifts, and the shifts are fixed, but so are the days off. So you might be on the night shift with Tuesday, Wednesday off all the time for 10 years. So those kind of schedules that are still around, they're sort of archaic, and it leads to a lot of turnover and poor morale.
Yeah. I was part of an injection molding facility that I was running it, and we switched from a 5-day, 24-hour day to a 7-day, 24-hour schedule, and switched from the 8-hour shifts to the 12-hour shifts, the 3-4 schedule, like you talked about. It's real common in those kind of things. And just the ability to publish a schedule out for the year, basically, or as long as you wanted. And then, like you said, allow people to flip a shift or two if they wanted to. I forget what the exact, things we could do, but it was so great because the employees could look out however many months, and they could say, well, I want to do a vacation here. So I'm going to pick up an extra shift here and swap with somebody else, or take vacation, or however they were doing it. And they enjoyed the heck out of that, going from the 8 to 12, because in the 8-hour shift, if we had to run a Saturday or Sunday or both, it was horrible overtime.
That's right. It turns out that even if you're running 5 days a week or 6 days a week, you can still have a 12-hour system. We have one schedule that runs 5 days a week. Each employee gets a 6-day break every 3 weeks.
Wow.
Every 3 weeks.
Yeah. So there are those kind of schedules attract people.
Yes.
Reduce turnover. And keep your skills.
Wow. Yeah. It makes a huge difference. It's amazing the morale difference that makes when people
I really commend you and admire the work that you've done, and just being a pioneer in this, and just to think of how many lives that your firm has impacted, how many marriages you've probably saved, how many families that you've kept together. I'm being serious. This is a profound impact on people's lives. And just if you have a bad night's sleep, I mean, it totally impacts you, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Just think, there's so many 24-hour things around us that we don't even realize, from hospitals to grocery stores to fire departments, police stations, all these things. There's so many around us, and not to mention, like we know in manufacturing, because if you look like in a refinery setting or in a molding setting or something where the equipment, is hard to turn on and shut off, it's necessary. Yeah,
that's right.
Hey, Damon, we got a shout out from our buddy Frank here today.
Frank's in here. Frank, it was my pleasure to work with Richard at the beginning of my career, and an honor to be the current managing partner at Coleman Consulting Group. Thanks for stopping by, Frank. And it was fun when he was here last time.
God bless you, Frank, and thank you for serving our country. And what a great time we had with Frank. So hope you are doing amazingly well. So Dr. Coleman, let's keep the party rolling. So I'm going to dive into, and I'm going to pull up a few things for folks to take a peek at. What are the most common reasons companies call you for help? Like, is there an aha moment, or is there a benchmark? When do people finally throw in the towel and say, hey, we need some professional help?
Can you turn on the slides here?
Yep, let's grab them here, and bear with me 1 second, and let's go here. All right, how does that look?
Yeah, that's good. So this first slide just shows you some of the companies that we work with. So you can see it's a wide range of industries, and though there's a wide range of industries, the problems they have. If we drop down 2 slides, please.
Two slides.
Yeah, right there. So you can read this. This is what we call the list of the hidden costs of poorly designed schedules. So we get called in for a lot of reasons. It could be reduced productivity, capital utilization is too low. Lately, a lot of reasons we get called in for is a turnover. So people are leaving. Now, when someone turns over, it's a cost to it. Not only is the cost for hiring someone, but while that person is gone, you're using overtime. Also, the new people who you recruit, let's say they put them on the back shift, they're not as experienced, so they might not realize when there's a problem, so the lines go down more often. So it's been estimated that for each turnover for an employee, let's say an employee costs you $80,000 a year with benefits, it costs you about $40,000 in costs for each turnover.
Oh, wow.
So what we do when we go work with companies is we take this list here and we try to turn all these issues into dollars. And if there's enough dollars at stake, then we say, go ahead, we're going to try to change the schedules. And most companies will find they have some issues like this. Like they might have skill imbalance, the back shifts may be much weaker, they don't have training built in, and so forth and so on. Another thing we find a lot is companies they have a schedule that's either running 168 hours a week, which is full out, or 120 hours a week, which is 3 shifts times 40, but they may need something in between. They may need a 147, a 142, a 150, or they may need to fluctuate their schedule. So that's one of the major reasons we get called in.
Awesome. Okay. So as you're showing, and I'd love for anybody out there that's in HR, or maybe you're facing these challenges or struggles, grab a screenshot of this list right here, reach out to Dr. Richard Coleman, reach out to our buddy Frank, and they are absolutely here to help you make your life more easier, your team more productive. Let's talk about the ideal schedule. And I don't know if the perfect schedule exists, but what would an ideal round the clock schedule look like?
I want you to go back one slide, go backwards.
There we go.
Yeah, so the ideal schedule has to hit all 3 needs. So from a business viewpoint, let's say you built a new plant, cost $100 million. And to make it simple, let's say you just need 1 employee there at any moment in time to run it. So what I would do is say, look, how many employees should we hire? And it turns out if you hire 5 employees, each person will be working about 1,750 hours, which is a little bit less than a day worker who works around 840 hours. And the reason you want to do that is these employees are going to have to work nights, weekends, holidays. And the perfect business schedule would be, I go to my investors and say, how much money is in the budget for labor? Include everything, overtime, pension, any kind of payouts. They say, okay, I have $400,000. So I get my 5 employees. I say, look, I have $80,000 for each one of you. I always want 1 person at work fit for duty, never 2, never 0. Good luck, work it out. And that would be the perfect business schedule because you're matching the workload and management is spending 0 time running the schedule.
Right.
Now, from the employee viewpoint, they're looking at it totally different. Perfect employee schedule would be something like this: day shift only, maybe work 4 days a week, every weekend off. The weekday off could be whatever you want. You could change it whatever you want. Overtime is always available every day of the week and every weekend, and you can take it when you want. You don't have to. There's no restriction on vacations, and all the holidays are off. So that'd be the perfect employee schedule: day off, flexibility, and pay. Now, if you said, give me the perfect health and safety schedule, let's say for the night shift, I'd say, okay, we're going to work a 6-hour night shift from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m., but you're going to work 365 nights in a row. Because by doing that, I'm going to invert your biological clock. So you'll be wide awake at night, sleep perfectly during the day, and the company would make sure that each employee has a dark, quiet room to sleep in. So I've just given you the perfect schedule. Right. But in reality, what you're always doing is taking these 3 circles and blending them together and trying to get the best fit. But that's basically the ideal schedule.
That's so in a perfect world, and so unfortunately that probably doesn't work. So can you explain some of the processes that you guys, when Coleman Group comes in, the Coleman Consulting Group comes in, what are some of the processes that you guys implement to start instituting?
Sure. I wanted to drop down, I think, 2 slides.
Absolutely.
Just go down one more. So this is basically, that triangle is basically what we do. It's about a 12 to 16 process to change schedules. And we start out with a business analysis to find out what are the true needs, how many operating hours do you really need per week, how do you cover breaks, vacation, relief, and so forth and so on. How do you fit maintenance into the schedule? So we figure out what the business needs are, and then we can develop schedules that meet the business needs. But we also meet with the employees 4 times. The first time we meet them is what I call rumor busters. We come in and tell them why we're here. We're here to reduce overtime. We're here to change time off. Do you have to change schedules, or is it up to you? So we try to answer the rumors. In the second meeting with them, we show them some alternative schedules. Then after we show them the schedules, they rate them. We tell them what's good and bad about them. We come back and show them their ratings. And finally, we meet with them and say, look, here's the schedules you selected. There's 2 top ones. Here are the work and pay rules that go along with them, and then you can pick them. So the key point is the employees are totally involved, but they're only choosing from schedules that we know meet the business needs. And if you go back up one slide,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is just an example of some of the schedules that we have. So we classify them by, like if you look at the one at the bottom there, it says on the bottom left, it says it's a 1, 10, 40, 2 crew, 10-hour fixed 4 and 3. What does that mean? It means the business is going to run 110 hours. Okay, that's how often manufacturing is going per week. 40 means the average work week for each employee. Crews, you're going to have 2 crews. The number of hours that the shift length is 10 hours. And is it a fixed system or a rotating system or some option in between? No, it's fixed shifts. You're either on days or afternoons. And your day off pattern is 4 on, 3 off. Now, if you look through this whole slide, you see there are lots and lots of different schedules. And so it's not just all of those variables I just mentioned can be manipulated and changed. So the operating hours for the business is different from the employee's work. You could have for a short, let's say you have a 1 month of high overtime, you could work a 168.56. So you're running every hour of the week. Employees are working 56 hours. It sounds horrible, but actually they work 4 on and 2 off. Okay, so they make a lot of overtime, 4 on, 2 off. They do it for a month. So we have lots of different schedule options, and that's some of the things that we show our clients.
Hey, Dr. Coleman, we talk a lot about technology and, like that digital transformation. Could you just share what is the most common resistance that you run into? Do you find it more folks on the floor or the workers themselves, or is it leadership? Where do you find the most resistance?
So much depends on what the current schedule is and the situation is. If it's a schedule that the employees really like, let's say they're on fixed shifts, okay? And so it took them many years to get the day shift, many years to get the afternoon shift. Yeah. And the company says, you know what, the night shift, we're having a real hard time recruiting because the schedule's so bad. But that's almost impossible to change. So management wants to change, but the employees are resistant. Right. You have other situations where the employees say, our time off is really bad, the overtime situation is really bad, we're being forced in too much. So they're the ones driving the change. And very often, the change comes down to management. Like, is there a lot of money to save? It's very hard to change schedules. If you're only going to save $1 million a year, why go through all this turmoil? But if you have a $5 to $10 million cost savings, which is typically what we find in a plant with, say, 500 employees, then they're going to push the change and make it happen.
Got it. Okay, super helpful. How about this? Do you have an example that you could share where there was just like a huge win, everybody's high-fiving, anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I had this one interesting project in South America where it's the biggest mine in South America, and the employees were working these 12-hour shifts, and they were being housed at the mine. And the company said, we don't want to start, we want to stop all this housing, it's too expensive. So when I went in there, I basically said, okay, you guys must really be happy that you're going to go from 180 days off here to 90. You must be really happy that your overtime's going to go from 10% to 0. You must be really happy that you're going to go from working 4 days in a row to working 14 out of 15. And when I said that, at first they were shocked because I had a microphone and I was all being translated through Spanish, But finally they started laughing. I said, hey, I'm here to help you. That's not going to happen. And we ended up with a very unique schedule where they still got the days off and the amount of days off and the same overtime, but we were able to reduce the housing significantly because you only had to stay over 1 night out of 8, whereas before you had to stay over 4 nights out of 8. So everyone was happy, management was happy, and employees are really happy, and that worked out really good.
Yeah. Well, that's something like that too. You got to, as I used to travel a lot in these kind of situations where you're out and you're working for 10 days and come back or that thing. For those people, and the same thing with you're on a 12-hour shift out of mine, you're away from home. You're away from home all those nights.
That's right.
Even if it's not much time, I think that little bit of quality time you get with your family every day like that's very important for people.
Yeah, we put them on a schedule. You worked a 12-hour day shifts, got bussed home. Another 12-hour day shift, got bussed home. Then there was a 24-hour break, and you came in and worked 2 nights. After your first night, you got to sleep at the mine. But after the second night, you were bussed home because you had 4 days off. So you only had to sleep there once, out of those every 8 days.
Yeah,
and that kept them pretty happy.
Yeah, no doubt.
do you find so you've piqued my curiosity with the say like the resistance or challenge, and you've got maybe if you've dealt with union shops or leadership workers, that type of thing. What did you see a common denominator on the organizations that really created the best win-wins? Was it just over the top healthy communication? Where did you see like the culture that really won?
The cultures that really win are where they have a lot of employee involvement to start with.
Okay.
So, for example, Procter and Gamble, they have the shift workers are working directly with us on the projects. They're looking at all the options. They're looking at the business needs. Sometimes in the unions, like the steel workers, they realize that they really needed to be more productive and lower costs. So, we'd share with them the business analysis. They'd see how this schedule is going to save money, and if they save money, that's more union jobs. So basically, it's the companies that have the employees or the union involved right from the beginning on looking at the business needs. That's better than when the employees are sort of blinded from the business needs and they just show up. So why are you guys changing schedules? Right. So you really want to communicate what you're doing. And the companies that do that routinely, they find these projects not as hard to do.
So what I'm hearing is, so obviously trust, right? So if there's challenge with trust going into the conversation, where workers are a little concerned about trust with leadership and that type of thing. Did you see that when companies had like real solid foundation of trust going in, that created a better environment or a better win for you?
Yeah, it's a much higher chance of actually implementing a change. If I go into some of the auto plants, like the UAW, their contracts are so fixed in detail and they're so advantageous to the employees that they almost don't want to change anything. They just like the benefits they have, and any kind of schedule change seems a threat. And if you start out your meeting, if you're working with the same people who negotiate the contract, say from management and the union, it's very hard to get a change because they're just into negotiating right from the beginning. So what you want to try to do is work directly with employees as much as you can.
Got it. Okay, excellent. Boy, this was a masterclass. And this can stem down to even, small manufacturers. It could be a small retailer, just really that communication, building that trust, and just really trying to create and bringing employees in for ownership to explain to them like, hey, this is why we're doing this. We're not doing it just to disrupt your life, or, we're trying to create a more productive, more efficient. How can we as a team be more competitive?
There have been some tough situations where in the rumor busting meetings, I tell them, look, we're either going to change schedules and lower costs, or the plant's moving to Mexico. That's the way it's going to be. So you have a choice. You can sit there and just fight the whole program and just not implement anything, or implement the best choice among this bad situation. So it's really important to be brutally honest when you're meeting with the employees.
Yeah. We got a lot of comments here, Kurt. Let's do this. So Frank dropped a comment here. It says, if you change schedules the right way, there should be a positive effect on working capital. And we're striving to match workforce to workload with the goal of less overtime, less idle time, and more operating efficiency. The key is making the right changes for your business. And so he's and asking the person that asked the previous question about connecting and talk about that. But yeah, it is that real combination. And then we got Leslie stopped with another comment. She said, when everyone is involved in the change, there's less resistance. So that's what you said, Dr. Coleman, when those employees like at Procter and Gamble, he said, when they're involved right away, it works. And then when we talk with Leslie has another comment, when we talk with our teams versus at our teams, there will be less resistance to change.
That's right.
And what you said, though, Dr. Coleman, I love your 4-step process with the employees, your myth buster meeting, the first one right off the bat, because you're just laying the thing, putting that to rest. This is what we're here to do. And this is why we were doing it. So I think that's a great way just to stop that rumor mill before it starts.
I was at one plant, I can't remember who it was, but the supervisor introduced me and he said, Dr. Coleman's just here to help you, to make you healthier. I said, I'm sorry, that's not the truth. We're here to cut overtime and save costs. That's why we're brought in. And so, they appreciate you being honest. That's all.
That's right. And Damon, he did save a lot of marriages. I think it'd be fascinating to see how many marriages Dr. Coleman saved over his career, right? And same for Frank.
just there's so many detrimental long-term effects to people that work these schedules that are way too many. You'd see people sometimes working 7 12-hour shifts in a row, and it's like we are not made to do that.
That's right.
And just think of like, and I don't know, Dr. Coleman, I'm sure, you've seen this with like how many kids, how many soccer games were parents able to attend, or dance recitals, just because they could have a say, like Leslie and Frank are saying in the chat box, because they participated with these folks, and these organizations were wise enough, if I can use that word, to bring in the Coleman Consulting Group to really figure those things out.
Well, some of our schedules are designed specifically. They have unlimited trading of days off without permission. Yeah. All you have to do is make sure you're cross-trained with that employee, and you trade within the week, so there's no overtime.
Yep.
You don't need to tell anyone you're doing it.
Well, absolutely love it. So awesome. Now, just to let folks know, if they're not already just impressed like crazy, Dr. Coleman wrote 2 books. Dr. Coleman, could you please talk a little bit about your books? I know that's not an easy task. We have the 24-hour business and Wide Awake at 3 a.m. Just share a little bit about your 2 books.
Yeah, the Wide Awake at 3 a.m. by choice or by chance was written around 1984 when I was the co-director of the Stanford Sleep Clinic. Okay. So it had chapters on insomnia, chapters on hypersomnia, people who are excessively sleepy, chapters on shift work, jet lag. So it's a general book about sleep. Mm-hmm. And the book I wrote in 1995, The 24-Hour Business, was basically a book about shift work scheduling. And had a lot of case examples. And it talked about those 3 circles: employee desires, business needs, and health and safety. And there are a lot of examples in there how that worked. I even had that slide I showed you earlier, the hidden costs of poorly designed schedules. That was in that book from 1995.
Nice. Excellent. So hey, go out and get those books. They're a couple of classics. What a great conversation here. So anybody out there at your business, you're looking to create a more flexible work schedule, Dr. Coleman and his team, Frank, are, of course, just wonderful assets to help you take things to the next level. Dr. Coleman, I have 2 last questions for you before I know you're super busy before we let you run. One question I love to ask, as an entrepreneur, now you started in academia. Did you see yourself going into becoming an entrepreneur?
Not really. I knew when I was basically involved in sleep research starting in 1973. And anytime you mentioned to someone you were doing sleep research, they got very interested. So in the back of my mind, I said, well, maybe someday there'll be something here with jet lag or shift work. But I never really thought I would end up doing this. And I really got the company started with, I borrowed $5,000 from my dad, and I sent out some direct mail, and boom, I got like 5 clients. And I got started in 1984. So I didn't know it was going to happen like that. I had no idea.
What an inspiration.
Yeah,
and here awesome. In 40, you're the 40-year accidental entrepreneur. How about writing that book, Dr. Coleman, right? Who saw that coming? So as an entrepreneur, leaving academia, going into entrepreneurship, say there's a young Dr. Coleman out there, a young entrepreneur, what would be the best business advice that you feel that you ever received or that you'd love to pass along?
Well, number one thing is have an expertise in some field. It doesn't have to be a big field, but be an expert so you have credibility, okay? The other thing is I hired sales consultants, great sales trainers to teach me how to sell. And I also hired great marketing people to teach me how to market. And after that, the next thing you got to do is hire a really good executive assistant to help you run your business so you can spend your time doing the most important things. So those are the lessons I learned. Get help. Know what you're not good at, but get experts to tell you what to do.
Well, no, brilliant advice. Drop the mic right there. And that's awesome. Big shout out to Rebecca, because I know Rebecca got this meeting set up today. Yeah. And we give a shout out and thanks to her. And so, all right, Dr. Coleman, first off, I want to thank you for your brilliant advice. It's so admirable, the work that you've done over your 40-year entrepreneurial career. Before I let you go, since you are a baseball fan, I have a baseball question for you. So are you ready? Are you sitting down for this one, Dr. Coleman?
Well, if it's a current baseball, I'm not really up to date, but if it's an old question, I might be able to help you.
It's an old question. So let's go back. So your team, if you're Willie Mays, are you a Giants fan?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say the Giants are playing the dreaded Dodgers. Okay. You with me?
Yeah.
So it's you're in San Francisco. It's the bottom of the 9th. The Giants are playing the Dodgers. Okay. There's a guy on second base. There's 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, tie score. tie score. The manager of the Giants looks down the bench and says, "Hey, Coleman, grab your helmet, grab your bat, go up there, hit in the winning run." Okay. As you walk up to the plate to go hit in that winning run, what is your walk-up song?
Oh, I don't know. My walk-off song. Jeez. I wish I had wasn't it the Giants song was like "Go Baby Go" or something like that?
Go,
Yeah.
baby, go. Hey, that's a perfect. Yeah,
That's
I
a
think
good
you're
one.
right. So that's a great answer. So, and maybe if since you're such a sound sleeper, but if you wake up and you have another wake up song, you drop Damon and myself an email. Let
Yep,
us know
drop
another
us a note.
wake up song. So, thank you for playing along.
Okay.
So, hey, how about we're going to wind down? And any last words of wisdom, any parting shots that you want to share with us, Dr. Coleman, as we close out today?
No, I just want to say I want to thank you guys for having me. And the only thing I would say is one of the advantages of having a shift consulting firm to help you change your schedules is we've dealt with thousands of shift workers and thousands of schedules. So a lot of companies, they sort of focus on the answer first, and that can get you into trouble. So you're better off building a schedule and letting the employees choose from a variety of them.
Right. And take a page out of Dr. Coleman's book, Let the Experts Do Their Expertise, and your business is going to be that much better. So connect with Dr. Coleman on LinkedIn and his team at the Coleman Consulting Group. Check out their website. And Damon, hey, how about a big round of applause for Dr. Coleman for just absolutely crushing it today.
Thank you. Thank
sharing
you.
his expertise.
Thank
So
you,
guys,
guys.
we want to close out and just want to wish you an amazing weekend. And just, Damon, as I love to say, just go out and be someone's inspiration, just like Dr. Coleman. Damon, take it away, my friend.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here today. Thanks, Dr. Coleman, for dropping all that knowledge on shift schedules, the research you've done, how it can help the companies. I also want to thank Leslie and Frank, and who else we got in here? Suzanne, for dropping those comments in here today. And we want to thank all you that were listening but didn't drop the comments. We know you're there. We appreciate you. We want to let you know that every single week. We are happy that you're here. If you got in late and didn't hear it from the beginning, go back to the beginning and start over and listen to Dr. Coleman, because if you are wondering how you can change your shift schedules, learn more about that and how to create a better workplace, you're going to want to listen to this. Thanks, everyone. We will be back again next week. We're going off the air for now. Have a great weekend.